Welcome to Graphic Talks 360. Today, I have a very prominent personality with me. He's a development economist, he's an investment banker, and the president of the Africa Investment Group. He is in the person of Dr. Sam Ankrah. Dr. Ankrah, welcome to our program.
Thanks for having me, Charles.
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, the Bank of Ghana came up with a raft of measures, in an attempt to calm the cedi and check inflationary trends. What is your assessment of what the Bank of Ghana announced?
Okay. From my perspective, first of all, thanks for your cherished listeners, and thank you for having me for this interview. The measures that I've heard are: one, they're buying gold from the local market in cedis. Two, they are increasing the interest rates to encourage saving, but to dissuade borrowing and spending. And three, they are asking the oil and gas and extractive industry, the minerals entities, to allow significant portions of their revenues to pass through Bank of Ghana. Now, the issue of buying gold, a resource found plentiful in Ghana, in cedis, is not a bad one. For the government, it's a useful way of hedging government funds. By moving into a commodity that is globally dominated in USD. The challenge is that unless the BOG is going to use gold currency, every one of those holding cedis outside the government is left unhedged cedi. So in sum, moving government funds into gold protects government, but it doesn't protect Ghanaians. On the second bit, we all know modulating rates to affect market movement is a commonly used tool in all central banks around the world. The basic principle is the lower the interest rates, the more incentives there is to conduct trading. The higher the interest rates, the more conducive is it to save. However, in modulating the cedi this way, there's a major disconnect from reality. The reality is almost all our activities done in Ghana, being exports, import for business, or consumption, is done in dollar basis. So whether we like it or not, Charles, the Ghana economy is dollarized. So the effect, therefore, of raising interest rates in the cedi to make inflation is rather you are increasing inflation, because consumption of basic foodstuffs is not a choice. Therefore, you cannot stop people from spending. However, rice, chicken, tomatoes, sugar, mutton, beef, maize, all these are imported in large quantities in dollars. So increasing the rates just makes it more expensive to purchase these commodities. So it does nothing to strengthen the cedi, but it rather increases the prices and causes inflation. Cedi, as we speak now, currently, is only a medium of exchange. It's not a store of value. The value is in Ghana is ascribed in the dollar. And people have seen intrinsic value in storing the dollar. So modulating interest rates on the cedi does little or no effect in strengthening the cedi against the dollar. On the third measure, which is trying to get extractive players to pass their revenues through the central bank, this sounds very simple, but one needs to study the agreements that the government entered with these institutions. Because one of the key components of these agreements is they negotiate the ability to repatriate their revenues offshore Ghana without any interference from Bank of Ghana. So getting them now to rescind that decision will not be just a straightforward situation. And a typical example is happening now in Nigeria, where the central bank or the government is preventing the industry players in aviation not to expatriate their money. And most of them are calling for a boycott on Nigeria.
So
Emirates and co are all doing so. Turkish Airlines and all this. So we've got to be very careful in trying to implement such a policy. We don't step on toes to even affect the investment market as well. In any case, if they agree and they leave their monies with the central bank, this is not money owned by Ghana. How does that increase the value of our currency?
These are very critical issues. So what are the compelling reasons allowing the market forces to determine the real value of the cedi?
I don't believe there are compelling reasons for simply allowing the market forces to control the cedi. But what I believe is we should. If we do that, we will see the cedi fall significantly with no bottom in sight. And this will be irreparable to the citizens of the country. But there's a need to transition from our usual way of managing the forex rate, which is auctioning the Bank of Ghana dollars into the system periodically, to modulate demand rather than just varying interest rates. And the cedi, once the cedi finds its level, then there has to be a medium to long-term strategy that will be realized by ensuring imports for consumptions are curved. And those commodity items produced in Ghana, we add value before we export it. Now, the transition between USD auctions by the BOG to a free floating currency must be a national plan, because a lot would be required. We have to peg the cedi for a period, and within that period, a lot of policies have to be implemented. And these are not 4-year party line policies. This has to be a national agenda where all parties buy into it and have a collective decision that this is where we want to see ourselves as a country. This is how we want to build the fundamentals, and then implement policies to suit that particular program or exercise that we want to take.
The black market also plays a role in determining, or plays a role when it comes to the demand and supply forces. What do you think our situation is in Ghana here? Is it having an impact?
Well, perhaps every cloud has a silver lining for someone. However, it is the volume of people determined to exit the cedi positions that creates the conditions for black market to profit. Retail banks cannot give customers significant amount of dollars these days. So this creates supply shortage. Therefore, demand increases. And if the demand increases, the cost of purchase would increase. So where you cannot get dollars and the value of the cedi is plunging, citizens will go to the black market. So in summary, there is probably black market profiteering, but they are providing a service that is helping citizens to hedge their savings. A situation where the government is either unable or willing to do.
But to what extent does the demand-supply dynamics determine the real value of the cedi?
Demand and supply for the dollar is almost the sole determinant of the value of the cedi. The only bullet Bank of Ghana has to influence the forex rate is the ability to increase the supply of the dollar or to decrease the demand of the dollar. It is therefore stand no reason that if the value of the dollar is not determined by is determined by external events outside the control of Ghana, Ghana will always be susceptible to external shocks. So common sense should dictate that it's not a situation one should allow to prevail. The extent to which Bank of Ghana is hammered by trying to manage the cedi and the dollar rate is not the real question. The real question is why we continue to allow ourselves to be susceptible to the external shocks.
We see very often the Bank of Ghana injecting a lot of dollars into the system. When that happens, we see the cedi stabilize for a while. They stop and then it goes up again. Do we see that as the real solution to the problem?
Absolutely not. It's cosmetic, it's artificial, and it's throwing good money after bad money. The best way, as I explained earlier, is to have a leverage period where we are able to peg our cedi to the dollar at a rate for a period of while to have all the psychological consequences that, hey, 10 years, 5 years, 6 years down the line, they still be the same rate. So there's no need hoarding or doing all this. And then within that period, we look for homegrown policies, add value to our exports, basic commodities, the staples like I've just mentioned, support agriculture, get these produced locally, and use fiscal policies to design or change the behavioral pattern of the people.
Some say that the value of the cedi as against the dollar is artificial. Do you think we should allow the cedi to fall to its normal level and then we see some stability in the long run, medium to long term or something?
Well, like I said, it will be irreparable if we allow just a free fall to that extent without having serious policies in place curbing the demand for the dollar.
Yeah.
But I personally believe that if we have a situation where there are serious policies put in place to put value on our cedi, we'll be able to create a very good level playing field where our cedi will have value against the dollar. That is where we should look at.
Finally, you talk about boosting exports. Ghanaians have insatiable taste for foreign goods. So how do we boost our exports when we have insatiable taste for imported goods?
First of all, our exports need value added. As I said earlier, we need to add value to it. And a typical example is what happened in Indonesia recently, where they were exporting raw iron ore. And the value of the export was about $1.9 billion a year. Just after COVID, the president realized, hey, we can't just keep doing this. We have to put value on the iron ore into iron sheets. There were a lot of backlashes. Various governments threatened not to trade with them. But then at that point, they had opportunity cost as to creating employment for his people, getting more external revenue, dollars into the system to back up their currency, to strengthen their currency. So that decision was taken, and lo and behold, after 1 year of practice, an export of 1.9 million moved to about 9 billion. So adding value to our exports is crucial to solve this problem, number one. However, the real problem is not having imports per se. You can't just ban import per se. But imports for basic consumptions like kinky, banku, rice, chicken, tomatoes, mutton, beef. Come on. This has to stop. In stopping these imports, Ghanaians must produce them and patronize these products. This will give value to the cedi, not just being a medium of exchange, but also as a store of value. Charles. So why have we end up here? What brought us here as a country? This is a very important aspect which most of the time we ignore. And it's very simple. we're spending more than we earn. And it's a basic thing that happens. If a man earns 1,000 cedis a month and he spends 900 cedis and save 100 cedis, the guy can go and borrow 1,000 cedis, knowing that within a 10 months period, he will pay it off because there's a surplus of 100 cedis every month. That surplus can be used to do investment. It can be used to buy cow or a sheep or a fowl to do a balance, so that even that revenue would help him to cut more expenditure. But if the guy is earning 100 cedis, 1,000 cedis, and he ends up spending 1,100 cedis every month, if he goes and borrow money, he's borrowing to pay his debts, and that's still leaving him in debt, and there's going to be perpetual debt. And this is where we find ourselves as a country. We are spending more than we earn, and there's no surplus to cover our what do you call it? Surplus to cover the loans that we borrow. So in civilized economies, when this happens, they do a credit search on you. That's where the Standards and Poor, the Fitch, and all these organizations comes in, and they say, hey, this guy is not fit for purpose. He's not been able to have revenue to meet expenditure. So they downgrade you or they upgrade you. Now, if you look at ourselves as a country, what is our key expenditure? We're spending about 60% of our revenues on just payroll, government payroll. There are more than 700,000 Ghanaians on a payroll in a population of 30 million people. Let's say UK, for instance, a very developed country of 65 million. They only have about 400,000 people on their payroll. So clearly, it's something that can be controlled. But who will do it? That's the challenge.
So do you
no one has the political will to do it. And until we are able to balance that, we'll continue to find ourselves in this predicament that we're in.
But with your expertise, how long do you think this can persist?
That's a very good question. We're sitting on a time bomb, and that is why we're mortgaging everything to raise loans, and we're raising revenues where we're not supposed to raise revenue, like e-levies and all this coming into equation. There's a desperate attempt to be able to prove that we are getting more revenues than expenditure. But the basic issue is to cut down the cost of our payroll. And if we're able to even slash it to 70%, 50%, that's from onwards, we can see prosperity as a country. Until we get that point, a lot of cosmetic work will be done as it goes along, and there has to be drastic measures taken in terms of increasing value to our exports, But if we have the two together, where we slash government payroll, increase value to our exports, this country will be an economic showpiece.
Let me add my last question about, we have a number of development banks. Do you think they are playing their role as development banks, particularly with the last one coming in? So we have the Great Agricultural Development Bank, National Investment Bank, and then we have the Development Bank of Ghana. You see these development banks to be playing their roles?
Absolutely not. If they do play their roles, then we shouldn't be where we are as a country. I mean, we have a Great Development Bank running oil transactions more than helping the farming community. The support to the agricultural sector, which has been the mainstream of our economy, it's almost negligible. So I believe that if the purpose, the functions of which these institutions are established are performed, honestly speaking, they are very good vehicles, tools to help to advance the economy of the country. I mean, look at the tiger economies like Japan. The likes of Toyota, Samsung, all these big brands that are come up, where people or individuals or organizations that started from nowhere, but with the support of banking institutions that build them from scratch to where they are now as institutions. And today they are global brands. Can Ghana do same? Can these establishments pick up local entrepreneurs and support their businesses to go global? We live to see.
We've heard about some of these business people, when they are given any stimulus by a government, then they tend to play politics. Do you think businesses should play politics?
No. I mean, that's a problem because the whole business environment in this country is political. Government controls almost everything. They pick and choose who they want to give. But as you know, every entrepreneurship is not just the fact that you have the opportunity. It's having the know-how, the calling, I use the word calling, to do the business. So if you're just dishing money anyhow to anybody and expecting to get results, you're joking, you wouldn't. But if you are investing into the right people who have the setup, you can see evidently that with a little support and push, these institutions are going to move into the next phase. That is where you see success. Unfortunately, that is not what is happening. Politicians pick their people, foot soldiers, party supporters, and give opportunities to, where they drive it down to the ditch. Whereas, if they had looked out for the right people with the right infrastructure, with the right setup, they would get success. I always say, and again, creating public wealth is a solution for Africa, which is about time we immediately stop looking for individual wealth creation and start focusing on creating public wealth, whereby I don't need to know Charles. On a level playing field, Charles can obtain what he wants and move to do what he has to do and succeed. That is the environment we need to create, a level playing field for all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ankrah. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
My guest, Dr. Ankrah, is a development economist, is an investment banker, and the president of the Africa Investment Group. My name is Charles Benoni Okayan, your host. Thank you.